I'm JT, joined by Frank. No Lunas or Jake today, so you got the Frank and JT show again.
Here we
Uh,
go.
yeah. So, a little bit of news and notes to address real quick, and then we'll get into some other juicy topics. First off, Jonathan Taylor, JT, brother JT, the less cool JT. He signed an extension with the Indianapolis Colts, ending the, I wouldn't really call it a holdout, the just unknowing of what was going to go on after Jonathan Taylor returned from the physically unable to perform list. So Jonathan Taylor back. He did play a little bit for the Colts, nothing too exciting, but I have to say the Colts have looked pretty good with their run game with Zach Moss there. So I'm pretty excited for Jonathan Taylor this season. I don't know about you, Frank, or what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I am. It's just I don't know what's going on about the situation. It still feels a little wacky to me. Part of it is I think most of us expected Jonathan Taylor to lead the backfield coming off that extension. Obviously, he's being more like weaned in instead of just out the gates firing, which is a little bit frustrating. Um, but also, I mean, credit where credit is due. Zach Moss is playing pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Zach Moss is kind of doing things out there. So I'm just wondering, like, how long is it going to take Jonathan Taylor to kind of ramp up? Um, it just feels like at the beginning of this season for a lot of these topper end backs, Brees Hall, Jonathan Taylor, like they've just struggled to get going here, and it's been a little bit annoying for such blue chip assets.
Yeah, Brees Hall, he had the ACL tear, so that was kind of expected for him to be um, having that slow ramp up period. I think Dalvin Cook being washed has actually expedited how quickly they've put him back in. I think the Jets' original plan was they're going to ease him back in and just let Dalvin Cook carry the brunt of the workload, and that hasn't worked. With the Colts, this was Jonathan Taylor's first regular season gameplay action.
Yeah, in a
I don't know
while.
how. Yeah, I don't know how serious the ankle injury was. He only played 15% of the snaps. I'm looking at the stats now. So, I don't know. I mean, maybe they hold him back another week, but then they do have that Cleveland defense, which has been one of the top defenses in the league this year. So it might take a little bit for you to actually realize the Jonathan Taylor points. But once he gets going, I'm feeling pretty good about it. If we want to jump around real quick, though, Anthony Richardson has only been able to stay healthy, I think, for one full game at this point. He landed on IR after he landed he took a big hit, landed on his shoulder awkwardly. The Colts elected to put him on IR as to not rush him back. They don't want to ruin what they just traded, what they just used their first round pick for. Does this concern you at all, Frank? I know it's the cliche, oh, it's a running quarterback, he's always going to get injured, and then that's been proven wrong. But I mean, through 5 weeks, we've only had one real game of Anthony Richardson. Is that concerning?
I think it is a smidge. I don't think it's enough to where like I'm gonna sell my Anthony Richardson shares. I think I only have one, so I'm not gonna sell it because the fact that he's gotten hurt. I think it's a little bit frustrating that we've now seen multiple injuries pile up so early on in his career. Simply put, because when you think back to someone like Cam Newton, right, where all of a sudden after 5 years just those little injuries piled up after one after another, and then all of a sudden he was a shell of his former self. Not saying that that is a worry right now for Anthony Richardson, but I mean, you just don't want to see them pile up this early on, especially when you haven't really seen him fully do it yet. But I don't think that you can lower your price tag for him. I don't think you can really panic on him right now. I mean, if you think he's overpriced, that's one argument. But this news being the reason why you're now making a drastic move, that to me seems a little bit ridiculous.
To that
Unle-
to that part, I agree. What were
Unless
you gonna
you're a
say?
contender, I guess. If you're a contender and you need the points, then that's a different story. Then you need the points, right?
Yeah, I would be pivoting off my Anthony Richardson's to Lamar, not because of this injury stuff, just because I think Lamar is the better long term play. And they're pretty equal in value, or at least similarly valued. Um, But yeah, as far as Anthony Richardson long-term injury concerns, I think that I'll call him kind of a quack. Fantasy football doctor Jesse Morris on Twitter said there was concerns about him staying healthy, picking up a lot of injuries. That I don't care about. I care about he averages like 5.5 yards per pass attempt, which is not what you want to see out of a quarterback. Although he does have the electric rushing ability to him where he's just putting up points. And at the end of the day, points is what matters. But yeah, not hitting the panic button yet.
Nice hats. Oh, I honestly completely forgot about the hats. Yeah, we just pulled them out. I got the sorting hat. JT's rocking a classic pinwheel.
I'm looking at my hat right now. If you're listening to us on some other streaming service that doesn't have the video component to the podcast, check us out on YouTube, 3rd and 20, to see our fancy new hats. So anyway, yes, Frank, it looked like you were ready to say something there.
Yeah, I don't know. I just one thing about Anthony Richardson is that he's just shown the upside, which is really nice.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like at least his game has been a lot more balanced than someone like Justin Fields, to where you've seen both really phenomenal passes and really phenomenal rushes. Um, I do still really like Anthony Richardson and think that he's a pretty nice asset to have. And I honestly think that he's a safer asset than people would probably give him credit for. Yeah, long term, it's a little bit risky, but from here until the very first game of next season, this guy is a guaranteed top 2 round startup pick. It would have to be catastrophic, him coming back and really playing like complete dog shit, for that not to be the case.
Yeah, no, I think in terms of just holding value, he's definitely going to. So that part I'm not concerned about.
So, like, I think I would be more so trying to buy off of this news, if anything. Well, especially if you're mainly because of that one scenario where if there's a team that was using him in their QB rotation and they're willing to pivot for points, I mean, you at least got to try and entertain it if that condition exists in your league.
I guess. I mean,
especially if someone's trying to sell him, if someone's like trade blocked him, then I would be looking at the price tag.
okay. I think we just differ on. I think he's fine, but there's a lot of other people in that same tier that I like. So I'd probably just trade for those guys instead.
Right, that's fair, but I think that with that kind of move, a move where someone's looking for a contending asset, man, I just think that you're parking a hefty amount of value. There's really not a lot of players that you can say, I guarantee you're going to be a top 25 dynasty asset with basically no concern at the end of the season. Most of them go for exorbitant prices. Not that Anthony Richardson doesn't, but
yeah, I mean, all right. I'm looking at the list of players. Actually, let me do it this way. I'm looking at the list of players ranked around Anthony Richardson. He's currently 12th overall. Yeah, if I can move off basically any receiver not named Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson into Anthony Richardson, I would do that. So like Tyreek Hill, Amon-Ra, AJ Brown, CeeDee Lamb. If I can move off those guys into Anthony Richardson, I'd definitely do that. Running backs other than Bijan.
well, and do it without probably having to give up the crazy assets that it might normally cost.
Yeah, well, I mean, it looks like it doesn't cost anything based on the players that I'm saying. Like, it would just be a 1-for-1 swap for the most part, maybe a smidge on top.
Because, I mean, man, Brock Purdy has really risen. I think more realistically, maybe someone like a Justin Fields plus to get into him. I mean, you could see what Brock Purdy is like, but he's all over the place, I imagine, with people's valuations, from some calling him the next Tom Brady to other think he's not going to be the starter halfway through the year.
True.
But yeah, just also, I guess last point on Richardson,
Mhm.
And this kind of goes for any elite quarterback, whether you really like them or not. If they're getting trade blocked and you need a quarterback, that is the time. That is the time. Because the only time you're getting a QB at market value is when someone's trying to sell them. It is a really painful experience trying to buy these top end QBs when someone does not want to get rid of them. That's when you see those trades going down where it's like, to go and get Josh Allen, you need to pay Justin Herbert and like 2 firsts, right?
Mhm.
And I don't think that those trades are worth it.
Agreed. All right, so that's Anthony Richardson talk. Quick, just 2 random trades that I would say happened this week. We had Chase Claypool, who was traded from the Steelers to the Bears for what was essentially a first-round pick. It was pick 32 in the draft. Chase Claypool then gets traded for essentially a late-round pick swap a year later from the Bears to the Dolphins. So we'll start there, and then we can move on to the other trade. This is probably a more intriguing one of the two, just because that team didn't really have a great third option on the Dolphins. There was talk about potentially putting Claypool into like a tight end spot. They asked Coach McDaniel that. He said no, he's a wide receiver. He said something funnier than that, but I don't remember it off the top of my head. But yeah, looks like Claypool will be the third wide receiver, or at least will have the opportunity to be a third wide receiver on this Dolphins offense. Does that matter at all to you, Frank? Like, is Claypool worth something?
He's worth rostering, and if you have him, you got to be happy because it was not working out in Chicago.
No, it was not.
Now, listen, I don't think it's going to work out here specifically because, like, when I watch those Claypool interviews of him in Chicago, like, he's just pointing the fingers at everyone else. Dude, DJ Moore's having a good year. If you were nasty, you'd probably be producing, right? And if you were doing the things you were supposed to do, you'd probably be on the field, which I don't think it does not seem like he's doing it. I don't want anything to do with Claypool, but if you have him on your roster, you're stuck with him. So this is intriguing. And fact of the matter is, the Dolphins' offense is probably the best offense to be a part of right now for a random dude coming and to start producing.
Yeah, well, I mean, they've put up the most amount of yards through the first 5 weeks of any team ever. So it is, I would say, the best situation as well. So,
and like you said, they do kind of need a third playmaking option, but I think Claypool, the only real hope is probably in more deeper leagues that he can kind of ascend into a flex play or maybe like a low end flex play without an injury to one of those receivers, and Claypool kind of figuring it out, refiguring it out.
yeah. I mean, at this point, it feels like your hope is he becomes a Gabe Davis, which is not what you really want to.
Yeah, and I think the problem is though is that when you look at, if you go back and watch some of those what is it, UCF, right? I'm not getting that wrong with Gabe Davis.
Yes.
Because I remember watching him at UCF just randomly, and like every game they're pointing out how Gabe Davis is like the dude. He's the classic first one in, last one out, like really good teammate, really good with the fans and everything.
Claypool.
And then there's Claypool, right? It's like, how much further do we need to go? He was literally a couple weeks ago getting called out by the national media for not trying,
Yeah.
And that's on the field. That is literally on the field.
Active game matter.
So yeah, even if he does become relevant at any point, I would be using that as an opportunity to sell.
Yeah, it's just realistically, I don't know. He's probably just like a kind of a throw in to really push a trade over the edge, I guess.
He's valued probably by most people at nothing right now.
Yeah.
But I would not be looking to buy him.
Same at this point. I don't even know what you would take. I don't care. Van Jefferson, the other one to get traded, didn't really fully pan out with the Rams. He had some good games, a decent season. But with the emergence of Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp coming back, Tutu Atwell actually playing or having a pretty solid start to the year. Although Cooper Kupp's got the nagging hamstring injury. Who knows how long that'll be with the Rams. They just didn't really see a need for Van Jefferson. The Rams actually get a pick back instead of trading them away. But yeah, Van Jefferson goes to the Falcons, where all receivers, I would say, kind of go to die. This seems like the opposite of Claypool, where it's like Claypool went from a bad situation to a great situation. Now Van Jefferson is going from a pretty solid situation to now one of the worst. Is he just toast at this point?
Yeah, probably. This is one of those classic. It's better for your, at least in theory, better for your football team than better for fantasy type of situations because, I mean, I just think that when you compare Van Jefferson and Mac Hollins, I think that Mac Hollins is just better more as like a field stretcher. But if you're looking for someone, just the defense is playing man coverage and you want another guy who can go one on one and win, I think that Van Jefferson is kind of that guy. And that is something that the Falcons could definitely use at depth at their receiver spot. But that's not going to be a consistent role for them. I mean, the good ones aren't consistent there. So yeah, Van Jefferson,
No.
this sucks.
Yeah.
At this point, if you have Van Jefferson, you're just hoping for a free agency good landing spot in the future.
Yeah, I think he's just done. I don't know. If I could like say, for example, obviously it's not the case now, but something else is going to pop up in the next couple weeks. Where a player like Demarcado or Jaleel McLaughlin, I don't know how you say the last name, those kind of players pop up. That's probably who, if I see Van Jefferson at the bottom of my bench, I'm probably cutting him for those type of guys, and just going to ride with those instead because it's bleak for Van Jefferson.
I agree, but at the same time, I'm curious to see what happens. I think is it this offseason that he's a free agent?
Quick Google search and I will let you know. Van Jefferson contract. 4-year contract. He's a UFA in 2024. So yeah.
Okay, so I'm very interested to see where he ends up, but yeah, I probably agree with you. I would drop him for one of those types of players if available, and any other ones that become available. But this is a big vote of confidence though for the Tutu Atwell Puka Nacua combo, because now they are firmly like, yo, we have our guys, which I think is more of a win for Tutu Atwell than it is Puka, because at this point,
well, let's get into that because that is one of our segments we're going to talk about. They played with Cooper Kupp, and like Puka was still very good.
Right.
He had, I think, 11 targets. I thought things weren't going to go so great when Cooper Kupp had like 5 targets on the first drive of the game. It was basically Matthew Stafford just honing in on him, although the Eagles were just allowing him to take all that space. But yeah, Puka Nacua finished with, I believe, 11 targets. I think Cooper Kupp had 15, if I remember correctly. I don't have the stats right in front of me. But still looking very solid on this Rams. Cooper Kupp had 12 targets, and Puka had 11. Yeah, so only 1 target behind Cooper Kupp. This Rams offense looked solid for a decent portion against a very strong Eagles defense. I don't know, Frank. It does seem legit, this Puka hype now. I think we were kind of already bought in a few weeks ago because after the first 2 weeks, it didn't feel like an aberration. So we talked about giving up.
The question is how high.
Mid first.
Right.
Yeah. Because, I mean, if I'm looking on Keep Trade Cut right now, it's probably going to tell me Puka Nacua is borderline a top 12 receiver, I would assume.
Yeah, like the question, like, are you taking Puka or Devontae Smith?
I think I'm taking, I don't know.
Like, it's a tough one, man. That's really tough.
I'd probably take, it seems crazy, but I think I might say Puka. I
Yeah, isn't
mean,
that wild?
that's
Puka
why, like,
Nacua.
this is unheard of. I'm just thinking though, like, obviously
He's him.
he's just doing laps around most targets, most catches, all that other stuff, to start a career. But I mean, his low for targets was 7. Like, the least amount of targets he had in the game was 7, and he still put up 72 yards. Um,
Yeah, this guy's
I don't know,
kind of a
man.
certified beast.
Yeah, like Jamar Chase doesn't do that. Justin Jefferson kind of does that. Like, I'm not putting him in the top 5 for sure, but like Puka or Jalen Waddle, I
I
don't know.
think
That's
one of the
getting kind of
things that's
crazy.
tough is that you kind of feel like how much of it. I think Puka Nacua is good, right? Let's just establish that. This is the conversation of how good. And one of the things that I struggle with is that it really feels like some of this production is because of the situation and the Stafford boost. Because I'm going to come out and say, I mean, Stafford is fucking balling, and this
Yeah.
dude is always balled. This guy is a certified beast,
Mhm.
and he is one of the few guys in the game. And Sean McVay doesn't give a fuck, so they're gonna one of the few guys in the game that can like drop it back for 50 times week in and week out, and you actually have a good chance of winning the football game. It's honestly insane. So there is a lot of that going on right now. That is what they do. We are dropping back and chucking the fucking pill, and we hope we end up on top. So yeah, like what if you put another really talented receiver who is able to develop that rapport with Matthew Stafford on the field? Because that is what Puka Nacua, I think, is one of his real strengths has been. Same thing with Cooper Kupp, that they've they're just really on the same page with Stafford and in tune with the offense.
Yeah. Um, Wait, did you ask a question there?
Well, like, okay, what about Cooper Cup before Stafford and all that, right? This
Mhm.
guy was good, but he wasn't ridiculous. You know, part of
Yeah.
that I think is Cooper Cup
So
getting
how much?
better, but I think part of it is that they're in an offense where they are chucking the fucking rock.
Yeah, and I think I'm not betting on that changing. I feel like anytime soon. I mean, their running back situation doesn't really lend itself to running.
They
Um,
can't. Yeah, they have to. This is the how. This is what they got to
yeah,
do.
their offensive line doesn't really say, "Hey, let's run the ball, let's dominate the line of scrimmage," kind of thing. Um, the teams that they're playing against, I was looking up their schedule. It's a pretty decent mix of very good defenses and then very trash defenses. So, I mean, though, even when they played the 49ers, like, they still had a good offense. I mean, Matthew Stafford passed the ball 55 times against the 49ers. So if the question is like, is this sustainable kind of thing, or like, how much should we bake that into the price of these players? The fact that this could just go away, I would say not a whole lot. Um, I think they've shown that they can command these giant target shares. The defenses should know what's coming at this point, and they're still doing what they're doing. Um, so at that point, I do think it's fair to have them rated that high, and to not just be like, oh, it's situational.
Man,
Um,
it's funny. I pulled up Keep Trade Cut and I looked at Puka Nacua, the 28th overall dynasty asset, and I think there's one first round pick in there, so 27th overall player. And my first reaction, you want to know what it was? To my amaze, I wanted to put him higher.
yeah, that's why I'm like looking at players above them, and I'm like, I might look, like, quarterbacks, I'm not going to jump him over. So even like Justin Fields, who has been very shaky, had a very good week against Washington. I'm not going to jump him over quarterbacks, right? Because I'm not trading these quarterbacks for a wide receiver. But in terms of wide receivers, right? Like, Stephon Diggs absolutely a better wide receiver than Puka Nacua, but
No, give me
is
Puka.
getting over. He's getting older.
Give me Puka. I
Well,
think that that's a no-brainer. If you
definitely
are
trade
not a
Diggs,
hard contender, if you are not like, yo, I'm trying to win the
but
fucking
even
chip
so,
and I know I have a good shot at doing
okay,
so.
hold on. Even if you are a hard contender, I think Puka has a chance to put up more points.
Yeah,
Like,
I would think about it. I would
yeah,
definitely think about
I'm
it.
just saying, like real life wide receiver, Stephon Diggs definitely better in terms of actual fantasy output. I think negligible, and Puka's 8 years younger. So
Well, I think one of the things though is that if you're in a spot where you're a hard contender and you don't have a ton of depth, there's either like you can do moves like that, but I feel like it's almost nice having a Stephon Diggs who you is like not risk free, but it's just more he's easier to project, right? He's a plug and play for the next like 2-3 years, and then he goes down. Whereas Puka Nakua, that's hard to predict. You don't know if he's going to be a plug and play still. Um, Although as I say that, it's like who's produced like him that hasn't been plug and play.
yeah, exactly.
um, Man, you're well. The thing is that I have Diggs in one of my super hard contender leagues, and now I'm thinking about sending that exact trade.
Might get rejected.
Yeah, it might.
Um, yeah, but as far as like who I'm not trading Puka or who I'm not trading away for Puka, who I'm not giving up for Puka, it's basically any quarterback who's like a top 12 quarterback. Um, the running backs that I'd keep are Brees Hall, Bijan, CMC, and Taylor. And then the wide receivers I would keep are Jefferson, Chase, Olave, Amon Ra, and Garrett Wilson. And then other than that,
I would still keep Waddle and Devontae Smith over him, but I do think that Puka Nakua is going to enter that tier,
which is
if
crazy.
not already.
It's crazy. We're 5 weeks in and we're talking about this guy.
Yeah, the problem is though is that until he stops, you almost have to. I mean, the production is
Yeah.
there.
I wonder what like say next week he goes out, right? Gets 2 targets, 23 yards, no touchdowns, basically puts up a dud, 3.3 points. I wonder if his price stays or crash it. Like how much
It'll
of
go
this is a
down a little
bubble?
bit.
How much of it is a bubble though, right? Like is there a potential buy opportunity at any point that he has a bad week? I don't know.
No, it would have to be consecutive bad weeks.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So we're basically talking about timing the
But
market,
the
which is
problem
like,
is though is that that's not happening. And the
yeah,
reason
that's
it's not happening is because and the Rams just told you 100,000%, and they've just showed you every week. This dude is like he's playing all the snaps. So
mhm.
on an offense that passes the ball a shit ton, and they're like all the positives we said earlier, he's just going to have a high floor. He's just going to. And
Matthew
that's what's
Stafford.
amazing. Like,
What's actually amazing is Matthew Stafford could be playing better too. Like he's got 5 touchdowns to 5 interceptions right now through 5 weeks. That's not like I mean, he's throwing the ball a lot and they're getting a decent amount of yards, but there's still another level of Matthew Stafford that I think could be unlocked.
right.
So I don't know. There's even more upside, I would say. All right, that's Puka Nacua talk. We want to get into real quick some other IR news. I mean, Justin Jefferson goes out on IR. Kind of sucks if you have. I mean, obviously, very much sucks if you have him. And we're looking to compete. But the real news is more so like, what does that mean for the rest of this offense? They were very, very much tied to. It was essentially Justin Jefferson. KJ Osborne was actually playing ahead of Jordan Addison in the 2 wide receiver splits, but then Jordan Addison was the third wide receiver there. And then after that, essentially no one was playing in that Vikings wide receiver core. And then you had TJ Hawkinson with them as well. who's the biggest beneficiary, or does this offense just all lose now because Justin Jefferson's not there? What happens here with Minnesota?
I think my gut instinct says the biggest beneficiary is probably Hawkinson. That being said, what would scare me, because I think Kirk Cousins is a baller. That dude can play, and I don't think,
Mhm.
like, yes, losing Justin Jefferson is a big loss, but I don't think that means that this Vikings offense all of a sudden is now the worst offense in the league.
No,
Kirk Cousins is going
the
to be
Patriots
able to,
exist.
right. I think that brings them to like an average passing attack, maybe slightly
Mhm,
below average. But
mhm.
he like, if Hawkinson doesn't fuck up like he did earlier in the year, because he's had some major screw ups that have
This team
basically
has been bad with fumbles.
lost them the game multiple times. If there's like a trust issue that now with Kirk Cousins and TJ Hawkinson, this is tinfoil hat. Wait, let me get the tinfoil hat here.
Well, this is why we have it in the
Yeah, this is
reserves.
why we have it in the. Oh wait, no, that's no. I think I accidentally got rid of the tinfoil hat and kept
Oh
the wizard
no!
hat.
All right, well,
Hold
you're a
on,
wizard then.
hold on. I'm getting my fucking tinfoil hat.
Okay, he's getting tinfoil hat.
Give me my tinfoil hat. Boom. Okay. If there's like a trust issue there because I keep throwing the ball to this guy and he keeps losing us the game at the end, if he's not that kind of guy, then he's not the biggest beneficiary, and then it's definitely Addison or Osborne. But it should be Hawkinson. He is the veteran player now in this offense. He's gotten targets at a high rate before. He should be your dude now in these clutch scenarios, and he even was at times with Justin Jefferson on the field.
You know what I'm doing right now, Frank?
What?
I am figuring out who I'm dropping to pick up. Boom, we'll drop you. Pick up Jalen Naylor because I dropped him for a while, but he's back.
Oh, is it
Uh,
Naylor season? I did drop him. I think I held him for a
he's
while.
out on IR for I believe one more week, but I can move him to IR actually and pick up someone else now that I think about that. He's out on IR for I believe one more week. But obviously Justin Jefferson is out for at least 4, and depending on how bad the Vikings are, maybe longer because they're not going to rush him back. So with that being said, I'm picking up Jalen Naylor because I think based off his very limited but very high PFF receiving grade, he was I think like had an 80 overall PFF receiving grade, give or take a couple points, but in that high range in his rookie season with his limited snaps. I think he has the ability to outplay KJ Osborne and get into this, be a mainstay in this Vikings offense. And for the price of free, I'm going to add that to my roster and figure out whether or not that's true.
Doing it as we speak, bro, Josh.
Yeah, now I have another spot to pick up someone which I did not have before. Looks
I
pretty
think that is a
deep
good shout.
on our waiver wire. I'll figure that out later. Who else I'm picking up? But yeah, that's the only other person. Maybe I'll pick up Diami Brown real quick. Just because that's the only other person I think could benefit. Otherwise, I think it's whatever. You might be able. It might be quicker.
AJ Osborne, I think, is startable now.
I got
He's a flex
yeah,
play.
yeah, yeah.
Because like if I were to rank out like the fantasy receivers, I think Osborne fits right around that like very low end wide receiver too. Like wide receiver 29, wide receiver 30, 28, somewhere around there. I think he's where he's going to fall in like a weekly projection.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that is Justin Jefferson, and then the other one was, oh god, I'm gonna mess up the name again because it was
Devon
H
Achane.
Chan.
I will say, I listen,
Yep.
man. I don't really know what to do because I love Achane, and I really don't want to sell Achane as a truther, but at the same time, I think that he's reaching an overpriced territory. Gut reaction.
He's ranked above Puka right now.
Well, not just that. It's the trades that have happened, right? I'm seeing Dynasty analysts on Twitter going out saying that you should give up multiple first round pick valuations
Oh,
for him, right? Where I saw someone saying a first, multiple second round picks, and a running back of like the Jerome Ford kind of tier, right? Like what would you call it? A low end RB2.
yeah.
Um, Trade that for Achane. And I'm not saying that that can't pan out, but man, that is putting a lot of eggs in a running back market that we seem to at the end of the season every year say, man, imagine if you invested in that young running back at his peak 2 years ago. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. I would not be doing that. I just don't know, like, is now the time to sell now that he's on IR? Probably not. So I think you
no,
hold.
there's a window now for a long time, most likely.
Yeah.
It's going to be like at least a year, if not longer. But look at someone like DeAndre Swift. You know, he ascended into RB2 status at one point,
Hmm.
and then hung around the top 10 for what, a year and
Yeah.
a half, 2 years,
Yeah.
and then it took the calamity to bring him down. Um, yeah, I don't. It happens at some point, unless you're a legitimately great running back, which he very well could be.
He could be, but I mean, we're already pricing him at a
Right.
very, very good running back. So yeah, that's definitely where I agree with you. He's
I
literally
guess the
running back
thing
four.
is, so if you could do that move, instead of, okay, so let's say we get Jerome Ford. I don't really want Jerome Ford, but let's say we got that. We got a 24 first, we got 2 second round picks, and then we got Jerome Ford. I would just try to package that, another one of those, whatever I think the later of the seconds is in Jerome Ford, and then just replace my running back that I just lost, and then net a
Yeah.
first and a second.
Yeah. Well, okay. Let's see what Jerome Ford in a second gets you. Roughly. Jerome Ford. I don't know. His price is all over the place on Keep Trade Cut. It's definitely fallen down
Right.
since
I
the
could pick up, I mean, what about like Damian Pierce?
early. And he is a weird one.
Do I get him?
No, his
What about Tyjae Spears? What about
that's
Alvin
better.
Kamara? What
Better.
about Zach Charbon?
I would
Zach
I would
Charbonnet,
100 I would 100% do Jerome Ford in that for Alvin Kamara. What's the price on Kamara? Like how much will I have to give up on top of Jerome Ford?
we're giving up a second in
Yeah.
this scenario.
Yeah. I know that kind of makes me sound like a fraud because in the second, third, and 20 league, I did just trade away Kamara, but I kind of just wanted to keep my max points down and I take
Right.
the draft
Yeah, it's a
capital.
different scenario.
But yeah, definitely would do something like that.
I think more realistically, I would want to transition into a receiver with those assets. If I could, instead of getting Kamara, if I were able to pick up Jahan Dotson, or dude, maybe even Quentin Johnston, now that his value is down a little bit, take a
Oh
swing
yeah,
on him.
if I'm trading, so you're essentially trading I don't know where he was going in rookie drafts, early second, late first, Achane, probably early
Yeah, like
second.
late first, very early second. One of
Yeah.
the two.
You're essentially trading your early second for 107, another first and a second. Just immediately stock up. But yeah, I think you're trading you're in this scenario. You're trading a player who's likely at his peak, or if not close to his peak, because even if he goes out there and has 5 weeks down the road when he's back from IR, if he goes out there and has another 25-point game plus or whatever, right? Is he really passing Brees Hall, who just did that? No. Is he passing CMC? No. Is he passing Bijan? No. So, I mean, his ceiling's kind of capped here. Like he's not going to be jumping most quarterbacks. There aren't many players he's going to go ahead. It's just more so you'll have more demand, more people believing in him, trying to trade for him at his certain value right now. But yeah, I would rather just move off and try and buy those more exciting assets.
Okay, I have the answer as a contender.
Okay, let's
I
hear it.
might actually try to get Derrick Henry.
Really? Weren't you talking to me yesterday? I think we were talking yesterday when you said he might be done.
Yeah, but dude, I will never give up on Derrick Henry. That dude, once you think he's done, that's when he comes back and puts up 200.
Yeah, we're not in Tractor Ceto season yet, too. So, a couple more months when it starts getting cold and teams don't want to be out there. That's Derrick Henry's prime time to strike. I don't know. I'd probably just do the other scenario that you were talking about.
Yeah, I just that's a really interesting move if you can get all those draft assets for Achane. Just given the how crap the running back market is and I don't think it's going to change for the foreseeable future unless you have a super stud. And I guess that's the real question. Do you think Achane is a super stud?
No, I think he's good, not great, or maybe
I
great.
just love
Great, not elite.
Achane, man. He's such an awesome player. And that's part of the problem too, is that like when you like someone a lot pre-draft and you think they have you almost like start fanboying them. So I'm like, I don't want to give them up. Like,
Yeah.
fuck you, you know. Definitely something to consider though, or if you can get more, if you can start getting into that multiple for which I think if you hold is not completely out of the question, by the way. This might not be the optimal time to sell, but we're starting to get to it.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was
What else
that was
we
it
got? Is
for
that
what's
it?
on our doc. I don't know what else you want to talk about. If there's anything.
Um, well, we can start talking about some trades.
Okay. I made a trade yesterday.
Yeah, that was a weird trade. Why did you? I feel like you got a pile of trash. What was the trade again?
Oh, so you were anti me on this trade. I gave up Sam Howell and Parker Washington for Mac Jones, Cam Akers, and 2024 third.
I was just so surprised that you were trading for Mac Jones and giving up Sam Howell.
I think Mac Jones is at his floor right now. Because I mean, I've said it a couple weeks ago, right? Like, I'm not the biggest Mac Jones guy, right? And I think in terms of fantasy football, Mac Jones is not like anything flashy. He's just that kind of. I mean, currently he's almost not startable. Although I might have to in our home league because Deshaun Watson might be out again. The thing about Mac Jones though is I think he is at his floor because when you look at this Patriots offense, this offensive line is horrendous.
Horrible.
His wide receiver, yeah, awful. He actually, believe it or not, this is one of the big reasons why I moved on to Mac Jones. He is, I don't know how to say this stat in terms of.
I think I know the stat you're talking about.
He's second best at avoiding sacks.
It's
Patrick Mahomes.
Sacks over expected.
Yeah, sacks.
And he is the second best. He has a negative like 44% or a negative 0.44 sacks per expected per play.
It's basically Mahomes is number one, Mac Jones is 2. Number 32 is Sam Howell. Sam Howell is one of the worst.
Yeah, well, that's kind of his problem.
Yes, and it's kind of the same issue with Justin Fields, although Sam Howell doesn't have the elite rushing upside, although he does have rushing upside. He doesn't have the elite rushing upside that Justin Fields has. And he doesn't have the first round draft capital either. So, there is a world where the floor just bottoms out and Sam Howell just evaporates. I don't think that's the case, but I think where I'm trading Sam Howell is roughly around where Sam Howell is going to be valued, right? Like, I don't think his situation is getting much better, right? You're not getting much better wide receiving core than what he currently has. His offensive line does have room for some improvement, but his running back situation is also pretty good. Whereas Mac Jones, we're talking about a quarterback who has first round draft capital, who actually has a top 10 PFF quarterback grade, um, but just has never had weapons to throw to, right? Like his best receiver was Jacoby Myers, and when he had Jacoby Myers, like that was a team that made the playoffs, and Mac Jones was actually a pretty solid quarterback. Um, Now we're talking about Devontae Parker as his best wide receiver, Kendrick Bourne. Like, what receivers are those guys on other teams? Third, probably for most other teams. They're probably a third, maybe second in a different bad situation. Um, Offensive line can only go up. Running back room is fine, although I think both of them are actually like one of the lowest at forced missed tackles. Um, so this offense is just devoid of any talent, and Mac Jones, I think, is unfairly getting all of the blame put on him, while only I think some of the blame should be put on him. But I mean, you take Mac Jones and you put him in San Francisco, you put him in Atlanta, you put him in all these other different places. I just think you have a very good quarterback for the price of the 32nd best, I think, on Keep Trade Cut, 32nd best quarterback in the league. So that was the main reason. And then on top of that, I also got Cam Akers in a third. So
That was the part that I didn't like.
the trash.
It's not the Mac Jones. It's that in my eyes, and I actually agree with your philosophy of the trade. In my eyes, I think that the gap between Sam Howell and Mac Jones is more than uh, a projected playoff team's third round pick, or like around the playoff team third round pick. And because I don't value Cam Akers in anything. I don't know what you value.
Well, that's where we differ, because I think Alexander Madison is bad. I've been off on
Yeah,
that. I've
I agree.
always said he's bad, right? We have Cam Akers basically coming off the street from getting traded to this team just 2 weeks ago, not knowing anything about this offense, and he's already up to 30% target share. He's getting 5 carries a game. Oops, I almost just dropped him in our league, clicking on him. Whereas Madison is getting 8 carries. We're getting 8 carries for Madison. So I think there's a chance. This is similar to why I went and got Antonio Gibson too. In these backfields where there's arbitrage and there is, they're murky backfields where you could take advantage of it. I just like getting the cheaper guy there and just hoping he becomes something, because Madison's not it, right? We know Madison's not it. So I think at some point this team's going to turn the ball to Cam Akers, and then at that point I can either flip Cam Akers for more than what I got him, or I could just ride it out. I actually feel better about holding on to Cam Akers than I did Jerome Ford. I think Jerome Ford's not it either, but I think Jerome Ford's not someone that's getting traded to a team. I don't think Jerome Ford is someone that a team actively trades for to go put in their roster. Whereas Cam Akers, that's what the difference is. Cam Akers is that kind of player, and if he ever does recover from that Achilles injury to like some semblance of Cam Akers, Cam the Ram that we originally saw, I feel pretty good about that. The third round pick was the third round pick. I mean, it's a dart throw.
Yeah, I listen. I'm the biggest guy on thirds in the world. I like the thirds, but I would rather just get 2/3 than Cam Akers. I would rather get a second.
I feel like I could trick someone into, if I really hated Cam Akers, I could trick someone into trading Cam Akers for a third right now if I needed to. I like him right now. I like him at that price.
That's an interesting. The thing is that you brought up an interesting point, because I agree with your philosophy, but I have a caveat where you said I want to find weird-ish backfields and get the cheapest one. I would just say I want to own handcuff-ish running backs, or running backs that have a chance to play.
I think you talked about this last week.
Yeah, the problem is though is that I don't want to just. I actually want to avoid some of the murkiest backfields, because to me, those are backfields devoid of talent, and then they're all going to be usurped the next season.
I mean, it's
Whereas
possible.
I want usurpers, right? I want people looking for thrones. And I think a lot of that it can be done cheap, especially like when we bring in last week where we brought in the handcuffing of running backs, right? Take like Jalen Warren for example. I mean, if you have Najee Harris, if you have Tony Pollard, you should be getting what's his name, like I bought in our
Battle.
league, yeah, Rico Dowdle, or if you like the other guy, the small one, go ahead and get him. Like doing these types of moves is the cheapest easiest way to get a usurper, and at least in the handcuff scenario you save yourself from being usurped. But like you had also said, you want to target everyone else's handcuffs as well. I think we should just rename it officially today. We want usurpers. That's who we are looking for.
Sure. And I think what I'll say to that though is in terms of devoid of talent and getting usurped with Minnesota, I think this is one of the most analytically driven teams in the NFL currently, and that kind of lends itself to not paying a running back a ton of money, not drafting a running back with a high draft pick. So I mean, even if they go out and get a running back, I think Cam Akers will have a chance to compete against whoever it is. Whereas a team like the Falcons or the Lions or those kind of teams, like they're the ones that are going to go out and get those running backs for a hefty price, and then you have to be concerned about all that. So I do agree though. Do want the usurpers, but I mean, we're seeing it with the Cardinals right now, right? Like Keontae Ingram and Demarcado. I struggle with that word for some reason, that last name. I don't think there's a lot of talent between either of them, but all of a sudden, whoever it is that becomes the starting running back for these next 4 or so weeks, they're going to be worth something, right? Mm-hmm. Like you can move off that player for something, whereas they were a waiver. They were on waivers. Maybe not Keontae Ingram, but they were on waivers recently as last week.
I had a point, now I'm forgetting it. Motherfucker.
That's right. Stumped you. I filibustered you long enough. Something about usurpers, probably. Running back.
Yeah, it was something along the lines of it. What was it? I can't remember.
Okay. Any trades that you're doing?
Yeah, there are. Oh, I know what I was going to say. Yeah, so the problem this is hilarious. Yeah, the difference between me and you in this discussion is that whatever amount of seasons ago, maybe it was just one, I had my moment with Cam Akers where I decided that I was just done and sold for my mid-second, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that was my Rager moment. It was, listen, I just don't want to bet on this guy long term anymore. I am, instead of being an idiot like everyone else was with Rager, or even more of an idiot like I was with Rager and buying him for a mid-second after he's already a bust. Because he could turn it around. Yeah, I had that moment already. So I'm just like, yeah, I'm not touching him.
Yeah.
Unless it's for a fourth. If it's for a fourth or a waiver claim, that's different.
I'll say, look, at the end of the day, I think Mac Jones should be valued ahead of Sam Howell, and he's not. So anything on top of that, I saw as a win. I get that in terms of market value, it was roughly an even trade.
What do you think? What do you think Mac Jones is at right now? Late second?
Yeah, maybe even early third. But
I mean, should I'm in my rebuild league. Should I just try to get? See, the thing is, I don't think I can get anything plus for Kenny Pickett for Mac Jones.
I thought you were going to say Kenny Pickett. I would definitely trade Kenny Pickett straight up for Mac Jones.
Is there any plus there?
I mean, if you're coming up to me and you're asking, I'm just straight up rejecting Kenny Pickett. But
No,
in terms of your
I
everyday.
think with the back-to-back goose eggs from the Patriots, I
I
think
think
that
he might
there's
have
a.
had. I think
I
it might have been
agree with
worse than
you that
goose eggs.
if
I think
you
they might have been negative.
believe in Mac Jones being a starting QB and like Baker Mayfielding
Oh,
it or figuring it out in the Pats, like you're right. This is a pretty darn good time to buy.
allegedly, you could get a Kenny Gainwell, Zay Jones, Dalton Schultz, Rondale Moore on top of Mac Jones to move in Kenny Pickett. Allegedly,
Like a third?
Did you know Kenny Pickett's older than Mac Jones?
Yes.
I did not. I mean, I figured they're roughly around the same age, but it wasn't like Mac Jones was a young rookie coming out. Yeah, probably Mac Jones plus, let's see, 2024 mid third. Mid third is about even. Maybe could bump it into an early third on top of Mac Jones for Kenny Pickett.
Oh, it's hilarious. The dude that I tried to trade Kenny Pickett for Baker Mayfield, he also has Mac Jones back to back. Did you said that on the pod last week, right?
Was it Mac Jones I was talking about trading Kenny Pickett for?
No, trading Kenny Pickett for Baker Mayfield.
Oh, yeah, I did.
Okay. All right, yeah. So going into other trades that I'm doing. Okay, so here's one. Those demercados of the world.
Yep.
Worth mass offering out third round pick.
Yeah. I don't even know if he's the starting running back. Like it could be Keontae Ingram.
I think that Keontae Ingram, he was hurt. I'm pretty sure, and
Yeah, he
everyone's
had a
just
neck
kind of
injury.
assuming. So okay, I'm gonna go try and sell my demercado shares then. What about Jaleel McLaughlin though on the Broncos? Because he seems to be a little bit electric.
He feels better than
Usurper? Question mark.
He was one of them. I mean, I think we're both pro Javonte guys, right? But it's just injury.
I like
injury.
Javonte. Yeah, he seems to. Man, I don't know what's really been going on with him. Like whether it's just been roped in with the rest of the Broncos' woes, or because I don't know. I feel like he's lacking a little bit of the juice that he had. What's going on, PDR?
Hey, PDR. So my problem with Javonte is, if I look at him, it was last year he had the injury, right?
Yeah.
For whatever reason, because they got injured at around the same time, I feel like he's not getting nearly as big of a pass as Breece Hall did. Because I was ready for this to be a lost season for Breece Hall, simply coming off a major knee injury. Obviously that changed last week, although the Broncos' run defense is probably the worst in the NFL. But I mean, he did go kind of crazy against them. Javonte's in the same zone. I feel like it was a major injury to Javonte Williams. It wasn't like just a sprained ankle or anything.
Yeah, I think the problem is though he hasn't had that juice, man. So I'm looking at
but I don't expect him to yet. It takes a while to get that back from.
Yeah, but Breece Hall showed it though. Breece Hall is
built different though. It's kind of unfair. Like Breece Hall's in that other stratosphere. Now, if you're saying, "Oh, I think Javonte Williams should be a top 5 running back, a dynasty running back, like he was ranked, last year before this injury," that's where I'll say, okay, like it's not. He's different. He's not that. But in terms of like an actual NFL running back, starting running back and stuff like that, he's going to take time to recover from this injury. I'm not hitting that panic button yet on Javonte Williams. The thing is, though, I think this Jaleel McLaughlin, I always screw it up. I think it's McLaughlin. I'm just going to say McLaughlin. I think he's like pretty good. Like I think he's like an actual, like you can use him in your offense and not feel like you're playing just, someone you picked up from the stand, So to that point, I would much rather have him than DeMercado. Am I mass offering him for a third? I don't think so. I don't know. It's definitely more of a question. DeMercado, yes, gone. See ya. If someone wants to give me a third round pick, out. Jaleel, I'm gonna try and do like a third for a second pick swap. I think is what you do here.
Well, what makes it easy for me is that I picked up a shit ton of Jaleel McLaughlin's in the start of the season when he was getting a little bit of camp hype or whatever hype
Mm-hmm.
on all the teams that had Javante. So that made that a lot simpler.
Is this a Philip Lindsay? Um, what was his other name? What was the other guy? DB, I think were his initials, and now I can't think of his name.
I can't remember.
Broncos 20, I don't know what year that would be, 2018 running back, 2018 roster. Philip Lindsay was the main running back. Oh, it's not going to let me sort. That's kind of annoying. I'm just wasting time on this.
I will say what's annoying is freaking Samaje Perine.
He's annoying on every team he's on. It was annoying when Joe Mixon was there. Devontae Booker, that's what I was looking for. Yeah. He's annoying on any team he's on. I don't know. He's got that pass blocking upside. I'm on the passing downs. The coaches kind of get fooled by him.
So Javante's under a first, right?
Yeah. I wouldn't trade it. I think I saw people last year, fantasy football analysts, advocating to trade a first for Javante when he was injured. I just never bought into that. Now if you're asking me to trade a first now that he's back, or early second.
No, because if he's not worth the first, I might be interested in purchasing in some leagues.
What if he's like guaranteed 201? Like, are you trading that for Javante?
No, because I think I might be able to get him for cheaper.
I think you might be able to too. I'm looking now. He's rated more than 2024 mid-second though. So I mean, it's going to be early second, I think. Well, he's rated more than an early second, it says.
I think the thing that you might be able to have more success doing is moving another running back into Javante. Right? So, I mean, you think of someone like a Brian Robinson, you could get Javante plus.
I would 100% do that. I'm thinking, like, how much on top of Jerome Ford do I need to move into Javante?
A third, I would offer. See what happens there.
Yeah, doing that then.
Or like, I mean, you could always also do the classic 4 and a 2 for Javante and a 3. Where's Javante in the running back? So Javante is early-ish second territory, but falling. So that's always because okay. So here's the thing, right? He's ranked above Tyjae Spears by like a smidge. They're basically the same. But I think most people, the consensus would take Tyjae over Javante.
Yeah, currently. And that's where I'm gonna zig when everyone's zagging. I'd rather Javante.
I think I would too, just to pick one and hold long. Yeah, I love Tyjae. I like them both, to be honest. I think
both are solid buys. Yeah,
right. Because this is the tier of running back where if I'm not a contender, or if I'm one of those meddling teams, and I'm like, I don't know if I should be keeping on to my players or selling, and let's say you're holding on to a David Montgomery or a James Cook. This is one of those moments where I would just trade for Javante plus, and I feel like I've mitigated all the risk. I still have a dart throw that I really like in Javante, and I agree with you, can pen out long term, but also getting a little bit of plus, getting a draft pick back.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're going up to like a James Cook level, or a Kyron Williams would be ideal. In your eyes, you would say Isaiah Pacheco. I tend to agree with Isaiah Pacheco. Um, they're in those territories where they're producing, and Javonte is not. So if Javante's on a contender, they have that incentive to go and get a Pacheco or a Kyron Williams.
Mm-hmm. I would definitely do that.
So especially like you have to remember in these types of trades, I think it's really important to pick swap your way and do some merchant strats to make both sides of the trade get the same amount of things. I honestly think that looks better unless you're doing a live negotiation or going back and forth in the chat messages. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, like you could definitely get. Let's say I'm offering Pacheco right now. You can get a 2-for-3 swap, and then maybe another dart throwy type of swap. Something going on there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let me get another trade going on here.
Okay. Look at you active in the market.
Yeah, I don't know, just things that I would be thinking about. Okay, did I talk about this trade for Evan Ingram in a 2 tight end league on the pod last week? Okay.
I don't know if it was on the pod. It might have been on the pod because I think Lunas chimed in. Not positive.
Okay, well then we'll go on to the next potential topic. So, kind of relating it back to Justin Jefferson injury. Not necessarily a trade talk, but a potential trade. Justin Jefferson just went on my IR in one of my super contending squads. Would you be comfortable starting Odell Beckham
No.
or
Option B.
wait, hold on, let me check. Yeah, man, that's right. What about like Tajay in your flex?
Yeah, give me Tajay.
You
I just don't know if Odell's going to be healthy enough to. Well, like the guy gets on the field, plays a couple snaps, and then he's back in the locker room again. I don't know what we're getting out of Odell.
What about dude? I've got Mercado in this league in the flex right now. See, yeah, this is a problem. A problem.
Here, P to the R has a trade that I'm looking at now. He gave up Calvin Ridley and a 25 second for Olave. I mean, that's just a smash, right? It's a
Yeah.
1 QB team, which makes values different, but I think that's definitely a smash. I see where you're coming from, P to the R, saying that like you thought you can compete, but you're not competing. So trading Ridley for Olave, you're getting less points. But I don't know if that's necessarily the case. Like the weeks 2 and 3 of the season, if I remember correctly, Calvin Ridley only scored like 5 combined points. So I'm not all the way back in on Calvin Ridley. I don't know what the deal is going to be with a fully healthy Christian Kirk and a fully healthy Zay Jones. Is it Zay Jones who I'm thinking of?
Yeah,
Someone's
I mean,
not,
yeah,
someone's
and
not
Evan
healthy
Ingram's
on the
there.
Jag. Yeah, someone's not healthy
Yeah,
on the Jags
Zay
right now.
Jones has not been healthy.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't know what the distribution is going to be between those 3 wide receivers. And whereas with Olave, like I know he's going to, maybe him and Michael Thomas are competing for the number 1 target on the Saints. And I get that Derek Carr has not been great and the Saints offense has not been great. But I think there's room for improvement there. Like I think what we're seeing is more so the floor for the Saints, whereas for the Jags, that's probably status quo. Is roughly 10 to 12 points that you're getting from those guys. And obviously, yeah, long term, I think Olave is just the smash over Calvin Ridley. So I'm a big fan of that trade. I wish I could get something
I
like that
like
done.
both players, but I agree with you. I'd rather have the Olave side simply because, especially 1 QB, Olave is just so plug and play. Ridley is also plug and play, but Olave you'd really just love holding long term. So I think that's a good trade for you. Yeah, Burrow really screwing people really hard because he hasn't even been like oh, a QB 21 game. It's literally been like bottom five, bottom five, bottom five.
Yeah, I mean, starting to turn it around though. It was against the Cardinals,
Right.
but um, I don't know. He had a good game. He looked definitely a lot more mobile. He didn't even have T. Higgins. Um, Now he's got Seattle and then a bye week. And then I think he should be fully healthy, although he does have a tough kind of stretch of defenses right after that. But yeah, I think Joe Burrow will be fine in the near future. Any other trades? Any other things we're doing?
Also got Bijan, Etienne, Devontae, London, Achane, Kincaid, Ass, and Roshan Kendrick. Holy
Jeez.
shit. See, if I were you, I think I would sell one of your young players for more draft picks. I
Go
know it
even
sounds
younger?
a little bit
Mhm.
I know it sounds a little bit counterintuitive, but the the one thing I hate about uh teams turning the corner is if you just go all super young player, because then you're almost guaranteed to have significant losses in value because you have so many risky assets. Like, because you can turn around,
Well,
and if you can, so let's say we do the Achan move we did earlier. I'm not saying to do it with Achan necessarily, right? It kind of depends on the deal and the market. But if you get a first in 2 seconds and then turn around and pick up someone like, what's his name? Kamara or James Conner or someone like that, freaking Jalen Warren. I don't know. There's so many ways you can do it. Getting those players at like second round type picks. Oh, you got 420. Oh shit, dude. Your team is stacked in that league. Holy
yeah.
shit.
I think I'd go the other, not necessarily the other way, but I like, what does combining Devontae Smith and Achan get you? Right? Like, I think that puts you into elite tier player.
I think I think he's pretty darn close to having just elite tier
Yeah, but I
players
mean,
all
well,
throughout.
now we have he has 424 first on top of that.
Yeah.
So, like, I think if you got, it's a one QB league, so quarterbacks are not nearly as important. So I'm trying to think of, like, you already have Jamar Chase and you have Bijan Robinson. I actually don't know where. Like, I think if you combine those two, I think you basically get anyone not named Justin Jefferson, and you have Jamar Chase and Bijan Robinson. The other two that I don't think you could get. And at that point, I don't think I would trade them for. Now that I'm looking, I don't think I'd combine those two to trade them for anyone else. So, yeah, maybe just do what Frank's saying then in this very specific situation.
See, the thing is that you can get into scenarios where, if done correctly, you can pick up some pretty darn contendy esque players for way cheaper than these young players, and then net a little bit of profits. All right, like one of my best moves I did in our home league was trade like a crap ton of good young receivers for a shit ton of draft picks, and then traded seconds for like what's it called? What's his name? Tyler Lockett, right? And then a single first for Keenan Allen, and then a single first for DJ Moore. And I feel like those types of moves, like you can net more draft picks because you can sell these super hype young players multiple firsts and seconds, right? All that shit, and then trade some of the return you get for a player that's arguably more startable at times.
Mm-hmm.
I offered Ridley and 4 firsts for Jefferson. Yeah, see, I would not want to do that. Because, dude, you're set to build a powerhouse. There's no need to go crazy.
Yeah, concur with that.
But like, I don't know. The thing is that you just have to wait for a boom on one of your guys. When like Achan, it's kind of happened with, so you could test the waters with him. I mean, Addison, I think it could easily happen with. Just one like trying to fish around for one of these offers where you're just getting a strong offer.
Hmm. Anything else you got?
Um, yeah, I was just
Otherwise,
curious, right? Like, if you have a contender first, what kind of receiver would you want to trade for?
contender first.
Yeah, I'm a super contender. My Justin Jefferson went down. I want a
Oh, okay.
receiver. I want a juicer of a receiver or a tight end. I mean,
Well,
what
so
about a
so
tight end?
we're going strictly for points here. We're
We're
just
going
that's our
strictly
main.
for I have a first round pick and I need a receiver. I mean, listen, I'd like some points, but I'm down for a little value play as well, a little mix between the points and the value sort of a thing.
Um, dang, a late first isn't
Or
exactly
should
top
I
to do.
just chill with my Tyjae Spears or Eric DeMercado
No,
or
if you're seriously competing, then no. Um, names that come to mind: Michael Pitts, not Michael Pitts, Michael Pittman. Um, although Kyle Pitts is always a trade that I would do. Hollywood Brown. Um, so yeah, I mean, if you're talking tight ends, Kyle Pitts. This one's more the value plays. Drake London. Uh, you're probably not getting JSN for a late first, but I test the waters. Um, those are probably the guys I'd go after if we're talking a first. I don't. Let me see if there's anyone that's rated a little bit higher than a first that I still think you could snag. Maybe a T Higgins. I think you could probably get T Higgins with the late first. I'm interested in that.
really? Is he
Yeah,
that far down?
he's rated like 5,000 on Keep Trade Cut. He hasn't really done much this. I mean, he caught. I think he had 2 touchdown game. Um, but otherwise, I think has had blanked a couple times. Let me see. Um, I'm looking in the wrong section. T Higgins. Yeah, he had one 25-point game and a half-point PPR, and then other than that, he's combined for 6 points in his 3 other weeks. So I think you have someone who's you could definitely find someone who's wavering on T Higgins right now.
I maybe do I have to offer more than a first for him, or just that one?
I'd offer the first and see what happens.
Yeah, the problem is that my team is like a super contender, so everyone's gonna be like, "Nah, dude, that's like the last pick in the league."
Yeah, I still think you might be able to get it done.
I'll try it out. I'll let you know next episode, everyone, what happens. I mean, maybe like a DK Metcalf.
Yeah, same thing. I mean, he's rated like same on Keep Trade Cut. I think you could probably.
Oh, he's
I would.
actually lower.
I'd be quicker to trade for T Higgins, or at least try and make it work with T Higgins.
Kyle Pitts too. Yeah, that's interesting. I still like
Yeah,
Kyle Pitts a lot.
I will always trade for Kyle Pitts.
All right. I think that's it from us here. If you made it this far, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it. We'll catch you next Tuesday or Wednesday. We've kind of been switching it up recently. Um, one of the two. Watch out for the tweets. Watch out in the YouTubes. But yeah, we'll catch y'all. See ya.